He stood at the entrance, clutching a box of personal belongings. Yesterday, he decided who was worthy of staying in this hotel. Today, he was the one being shown the door. The staff remained silent. No one dared to stand up for him. But when his eyes met those of the woman he had thrown out the night before, his heart clenched in terror. Her calm smile was far more terrifying than any shouting. What she said to him at that moment, he would remember for the rest of his life. But let's start from the beginning. Heavy raindrops pounded against the taxi window, leaving uneven streaks. Nicole Harris ran a tired hand across her forehead, wiping away invisible tension. Her flight had been delayed. She had waited nearly an hour for her luggage, and now the weather seemed to be working against her. All she needed was to check into her hotel, take a hot shower, and sink into a soft bed. As the uniformed doorman swung open the massive door for her, Nicole inhaled the familiar scent of expensive wood, freshly brewed coffee, and a faint hint of vanilla, the signature fragrance used in this five-star hotel. Everything around her screamed luxury. Gilded chandeliers, marble floors, impeccably dressed guests, the soft murmur of conversations, and the muted notes of a piano drifting from the lobby bar. She approached the front desk. "Good evening. I have a reservation for 3 nights under the name Nicole Harris." The tall man behind the desk, Caucasian, in his 50s, with neatly slicked-back graying hair and a gold name tag reading Richard Brown, lifted his gaze to her. His dark gray eyes scanned her from head to toe, an elegant pantsuit, neatly styled hair, a small laptop bag. Something flickered in his expression, subtle but unmistakable, as if he had already decided what kind of person stood before him. Nicole was used to looks like that. "Your name?" he asked in an even but dry tone. She repeated it. Richard Brown slowly typed something on the keyboard, then frowned and shook his head. "I'm afraid we don't have a reservation under that name." Nicole blinked. "What do you mean you don't? I booked it a week ago and paid in advance. Here's the confirmation." She pulled out her phone and turned the screen toward him. The booking details, the amount, the date, everything was in order. Richard didn't even look. "You see, our hotel maintains a certain level of clientele. Perhaps there was a mistake." "A mistake?" Something tightened inside Nicole. She studied him closely, slowly lowering her phone. "What exactly are you trying to say?" Richard tilted his head slightly, pretending to think. "I mean, there are other hotels in the area. Perhaps one of them would be a better fit for you." "Other?" A better fit? Nicole felt her breathing deepen, her hands growing cold. The lobby had grown quieter. People were beginning to turn and watch. "Are you refusing to check me in?" Her voice was calm but firm. "I'm not refusing." Richard spread his hands, his face showing a fake expression of sympathy. "I just doubt you actually have a reservation." "I just showed you proof." "Lady," his voice sharpened, "I don't need a scene. You don't have a reservation. You'll have to leave." At that moment, a security guard approached, a large man in a crisp suit. "Ma'am, let's not make this difficult. Not make this difficult." Nicole took a deep breath. Her chest burned with anger. This was all too familiar. And not just to her. She locked eyes with Richard and said evenly, "All right, I'll leave." He relaxed, smirking. "Have a good evening, miss." But just before turning away, Nicole leaned in slightly and whispered, "This was the biggest mistake of your life." Then she turned on her heel and walked out. But she didn't go far. Inside, Nicole was boiling. Cold raindrops streamed down her face, but she didn't even try to take cover under an umbrella. She just stood there, gripping her phone tightly, staring at the entrance of the luxurious hotel. This day was supposed to be ordinary. Check in, get some rest, then get to work. But now, she had a different task ahead of her. She could have just walked away. She could have let it go. But Nicole wasn't the kind of person who allowed herself to be treated like that. Richard Brown had no idea who he had just messed with. She took a deep breath, her gaze shifting to the hotel's glowing sign, shimmering letters symbolizing status, wealth, and influence. Everything that administrator was so desperately trying to protect from unworthy clients. His confidence, his arrogance. Her jaw tightened as she unlocked her phone. "Thomas?" Her voice was steady, but there was steel in it. A sleepy voice came through the receiver. Her lawyer. "Nicole? You're in New York? What happened? Remember the hotel we discussed buying? That one? Wait, you said you weren't sure." "I am now." "What happened?" She let out a low chuckle, though there was nothing warm about it. "My new employee just kicked me out of my future building." There was a pause. "Oh." Thomas exhaled slowly. "Then I guess it's time to finalize the deal. Today. You want to buy it right now?" "Thomas." Her voice hardened. "A full purchase. Find the owner. Offer a good price. If he hesitates, offer more. I want this hotel. Today." Her lawyer let out a sharp breath. "Got it. I'll get back to you within the hour." Nicole ended the call, exhaled, and looked up at the building in front of her. This place would be hers soon. And when she returned, everything would be different. She wouldn't come back as a guest. She would return as the owner. Richard Brown loved mornings at the hotel. It was the time when he could enjoy his coffee, review reports, check on the staff, and ensure that everything ran according to his rules. He walked through the lobby, appreciating the flawless organization. Fresh flowers at the front desk, smiling receptionists, the sound of phones ringing, and the quiet hum of guest conversations. This is exactly what a luxury hotel should look like, he thought with satisfaction. But after just a few more steps, something in the air shifted. The conversations quieted. The staff, usually full of polite smiles, suddenly froze. Even the guests lounging in the lobby started looking around. Richard frowned. And then he saw her. Nicole Harris walked through the lobby like a queen returning to her kingdom. She wore a perfectly tailored navy blue pantsuit that emphasized her impeccable style. Her hair, pulled into a sleek bun, revealed a face devoid of anger. Only cold, controlled authority. She was not a guest. She was the owner. Richard swallowed hard, still hoping this was some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe she had come back just to cause a scene? Maybe she still wanted a room? But then he saw the hotel's general manager walking behind her. The general manager. The man nervously adjusted his tie, cast a quick glance at the staff, and then announced, "Allow me to introduce our new owner, Miss Nicole Harris." Dead silence. Richard went pale. His heart pounded in his chest. "What?" he breathed, refusing to believe his own ears. Nicole stepped forward, stopping right in front of the front desk. "Good morning, Mr. Brown." Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of steel. This must be some kind of mistake," he stammered, glancing at the manager for help, but the man looked away. "A mistake?" Nicole tilted her head slightly, watching with amusement as he lost control. Interesting choice of words. She leaned forward, placing her hands on the desk. "It seems that yesterday you told me I didn't meet this hotel's standards, that people like me should look for other options." Richard swallowed hard. I didn't mean... Oh, I don't doubt that." Her voice softened even more. I just have one question. Does the owner of the hotel meet its standards?" Richard turned even paler. A flicker of realization spread across the faces of the staff. They had just grasped what had happened. Yesterday, he had thrown out the owner of her own hotel. Nicole took a deep breath, straightened up, and took a step back. "So, Mr. Brown, I thought you could use a break. Perhaps you should find another hotel, a more affordable one." He froze, then whispered, "No." But her voice rang clear across the entire lobby. "You're fired." Silence. Absolute silence. Richard stood motionless. "What?" "You're fired. Leave the hotel immediately." She said it calmly, without emotion, but her words sent a chill down his spine. "Nicole, wait. Let's discuss this. Yesterday, you weren't interested in discussions, Mr. Brown." She looked down at him. "Now I have nothing to discuss with you." He opened his mouth to protest, but at that moment, 2 security guards stepped forward. They were waiting for her command. His mouth closed. He realized there was nothing he could do. He was nobody. He had just lost everything. Slowly, with a stony face, Richard turned and walked toward his office to collect his belongings. Nicole watched him go, and damn, it felt good. Richard Brown walked toward the exit, clutching a cardboard box filled with his belongings. Each step on the marble floor echoed far too loudly. Inside, he was a storm of rage, humiliation, and helplessness. Yesterday, he had been the one deciding who was worthy of staying in this hotel and who wasn't. He had felt in complete control. And now, he was being thrown out, fired, like an unwanted outsider. The staff said nothing. No one spoke in his defense. No one offered to help him pack. They just watched. And some even smirked. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stand tall. He wouldn't show weakness. But as he approached the glass exit doors, she was waiting for him. "Nicole." She stood at the entrance, arms crossed over her chest. The navy blue suit accentuated her power and authority. There was no anger on her face, no triumphant gloating, just the calm, cold certainty of someone who had always known how this would end. Richard felt the fury in his chest swell. "You?" His voice came out hoarse. Nicole didn't let him finish. "You know, Mr. Brown." Her voice was soft, but steel-laced every word. "I spent a long time thinking about what to say to you as a farewell." She took a step closer. He instinctively took one back. "Do you remember telling me yesterday that I should look for a more affordable hotel?" Richard swallowed hard. She remembered. "I'd like to give you the same advice." A faint smirk touched her lips. "I'm sure you'll find a place that suits you better." Somewhere to the side, someone stifled a chuckle. Richard felt heat rush to his face. You think you can humiliate me now?" Nicole tilted her head slightly, studying him like a disappointing object. "No, Mr. Brown, I'm not humiliating you. I'm simply showing you where you belong." She straightened and nodded to the security guards. They stepped forward. "Doors that way," one of them said coldly.